So it's now time to talk about our favorites of 2023. This is our last recording here, as we're recording this right before Christmas, and we're going to talk some of our favorite moments, matches, period, from the world of professional wrestling in the year 2023. And I'll just preface it by saying this. If you are a wrestling fan, this is definitely, there's been a lot of things. I can tell you what, if I was to go on a time machine in general in the world, there's a lot of years in the past, the 90s specifically, that I would love to relive and go back to and just stay in for the remainder of time. I don't love AI. I don't love, any of the technology in the world. I don't love really anything, in the world. There's a lot of things I don't like. There's things I do like, but there's mostly things I'm like, I don't, TikTok doesn't excite me. Facebook being on my wrist now instead of just on my phone doesn't excite me. The idea of having monitors everywhere and anywhere. I mean, AirTags are cool for when you lose your phone, and GPSs are cool for when you lose things. The idea, though, that we're GPSed everywhere we go for the remainder of time is not cool. So technology in the world in general, I don't love the future. But I preface it all of that by saying 2023 was a good year if you are a professional wrestling fan and in the world of wrestling, right? I will say the future did good for the world of wrestling in that sense. I'm very much looking forward to 2024 if it has any indication of how 2023 were. And with our favorites of the year, I would like to start off with favorite match. I'll start off with favorite match, and this is a tough one, and I don't know if I'll even really be able to pin it down to one specific, but I will say a few matches that I really enjoyed, and so it's really difficult. One match that I enjoyed greatly, and probably it might be my pick for favorite match, is one match I saw in person, Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, way back in February at the Elimination Chamber in the main event. That was the start of what was a year of amazingly hot crowds at events in foreign locations, right? One of my favorite matches, just the energy, the excitement around it. We all knew Roman was going to win, but they somehow transcended that result into just still being an overall great match through and through. And my other two favorite matches I want to pick for this year are very similar in the sense of locale and the audience behind them. I'm going to pick or going to talk as well about Bad Bunny, Damian Priest, Backlash 2023 in Puerto Rico. That was just a very fun match. And then I'm going to also put Money in the Bank's main event in London. Roman Reigns, his only time getting pinned in all of 2023. Him and Solo versus the Usos, the Bloodline Civil War. Again, just fun. Just a great match all around, the excitement around it, the crowd, just everything. I guess if I have to pick one, I'm going to go with Sami and Roman. That'll be my favorite match of the year. What do you got?
So mine is definitely different than the list that you just had, and this might surprise you because it's not Raw or SmackDown competitors. It is also not AEW competitors.
Going NXT, huh?
It's going NXT, and I went back and I was thinking about it. We were talking about this, prepping for for our last show of the year. And the two competitors actually had two matches that I have in my top two this year. And it's Ilya Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes. So you had an NXT Great American Bash, which was that was in July, at the end of July. And then No Mercy, so NXT, that takeover. I still say takeover. So no Mercy. The title is No Mercy. That was 2 months later, at the end of September. So Melo won the first match. Ilya won the second match. Those two matches both, like, whenever I watch certain competitors in a ring, I watch old Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart matches, and I'm like, those dudes were made to wrestle forever. Like, if you could put that on loop and just have them wrestle forever, I'm going to be entertained. Ilya Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes, to me, they were born to be in a ring facing each other. Like, they are just They just mesh so well. They tell great stories. There's great spots. They check all the boxes for me as a wrestling and for me as a wrestling fan, which is different than what you look at as a wrestling fan versus our listeners and our viewers. But as for me as a wrestling fan, they check all the boxes. If I had to pick one of the two, I just love the fact that Ilya got one over on Carmelo finally, and that was the moment I was waiting for, because I've been waiting for Ilya to get the title. I really think he's great. Carmelo's obviously great. We saw him on SmackDown in a great showing this past week, so he looked great. The future is bright for both of these two. So for me, it's not only and I could have actually put them in as breakout stars, because they're honestly they could be breakout stars in 2024. I did not, so they're off that list. But I could not leave them off my list as favorite match, or matches, I guess, because they're my top two. So kudos to those guys. I'm looking forward to seeing how their careers progress, because it's only just begun.
What do you think of some of what is, in the Internet Wrestling database, Pro Fight database, and Dave Meltzer, as here's some of his top matches. Now, obviously, we just gave you our favorites, but his top match at 6 1/4 star happened all the way back in January at Wrestle Kingdom. Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay, and also on that list is Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay at AEW New Japan Forbidden Door in Toronto. He also has MJF and Bryan Danielson at a 5 3/4 star match at Revolution, which was a 60-minute Ironman match. He has Bryan Danielson, Zack Sabre Jr. at Wrestle Dream. As well as, there's a couple matches like on this list.
Okay, so where are my matches then? So where are my matches then on that list?
I will say,
you know how I feel about him. So
I will say, so it's not it's just based on the stars. But the matches that you mentioned, right, are on this essential list, meaning they're more than 4-star matches. This list is essentially just 4-star and above. And they're on that list. So I have to scroll down a little ways here. But they are on the list.
Where are they in comparison to other WWE? Are they close to the top?
Yeah, they are definitely close to the top in terms of WWE. Gunther has a few matches right on this list that are also near the top, that are 4.5-star matches. He gave, one of my match of the year, right? Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, my favorite match. He gave that 4 3/4 stars. One of the top rated WWE matches of the year. He gave that match, which might actually be, while I'm looking at this list here, it might be the top rated WWE match. He gave Roman and Sami the same 4 3/4 stars as he did Carmelo Hayes and Dragunov from Great American Bash 2023 here. So, Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes at No Mercy 4 3/4 stars. So he gave both of those matches 4 3/4 stars, which are essentially tied for one of the best matches. Actually, let me rephrase. The best matches he gave WWE for this year were 2 5-star matches. They both happened at WrestleMania. Gunther, Drew, and Sheamus in a triple threat. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and the Usos also in the main event of night number 1. Those are your 2 WWE 5-star matches of the year. And he gave those 2 NXT matches 4 3/4 stars, which essentially is higher than many, if not most, other WWE matches.
I guess the
in the WWE rank, they're 3 and 4. He's essentially saying of the year.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, how I feel about that individual. But it's kind of funny that the matches that we named, for collectively as our top ones, they both had the same rating, which is kind of interesting. Because me, I don't look at any of that stuff. You know how I am with that. So it's just interesting that they're up there. I guess that can tell our great audience that I guess I see things pretty well, and so do you. Because I mean, Gunther could have been on the list too. Gunther could have been on the list. I would have no problem putting Gunther in that match with, what was it, Drew and Sheamus? Yeah, that was a hell of a match too. No argument on that one.
I thought that match, maybe it's just me, after seeing Sheamus and Gunther from the year earlier at Clash at the Castle, I just feel that I was expecting a little bit more in that triple threat match. And triple threat matches are hard. I don't know even how Dave Meltzer gave that 5 stars, because triple threat matches are difficult because there's always somebody kind of on the sidelines. Personally, I wouldn't even give that match 5 stars. It was a good match, but I just had such high expectations for it.
It was an entertaining match. I think we agree. That was a good. It was a great match though. We agree with
Our
that.
favorite pay-per-views of the year, and boy, there was a lot of good ones this year,
This was
specifically,
easy.
obviously, in WWE. I mean, I guess I'll start again, right?
Yeah.
There's a bunch of good pay-per-views I liked. Going back to Roman and Sammy, right? Elimination Chamber, I thought was a good pay-per-view, top to bottom. I thought you had the 2 chamber matches, Logan Paul's interference in the one, the women's match was pretty decent. And then the other matches you had on that card, Brock versus Bobby, which again, that's supposed to be at WrestleMania. That was apparently supposed to be the appetizer for Bray Wyatt and Bobby Lashley that was going to happen at WrestleMania. So Brock and Bobby ended their essential feud, their trilogy of matches at Elimination Chamber of all places, and that was on the undercard, right? And Edge, right, teaming up with his wife in Canada. That was obviously so. Those are your undercard. You had 5 matches: Edge and Beth Phoenix versus, if I'm not mistaken, it was Miz and Maurice, correct? Right?
Yeah. It was like Team Grit and Team It or something like that.
Yeah, there you go. So that's your
Something like
undercard. Yeah, Team It versus Team Grit. The 2 elimination chambers, Bobby versus Brock, and Roman and Sammy. I mean, that's a solid 5 matches on your card. But it's difficult for me to say. I mean, I don't know if that. I want to say that that's my pay-per-view of the year. But, I thought Money in the Bank, I thought that was, again, a solid card from top to bottom. I thought Backlash, solid from top to bottom. Survivor Series was a good card.
It was a good year.
It was just a good year. AEW Revolution 2023 back in March, to give AEW some credit. The AEW's top-rated pay-per-view of the year, actually, I don't know if I would put this because it's difficult. I was in the air. I was flying to London, and probably I would have been in attendance at the time for AEW New Japan Forbidden Door 2023, which is essentially the top-rated AEW pay-per-view of the year. And I watched parts of that after the fact. I didn't get to watch it like in full. Like I said, I would have been there, right, in Toronto. I would have taken the time off, but I was in the middle of taking time off to go elsewhere. So I can't really give that the proper rating that it deserves. But I will say WrestleMania, it's hard to rank because it's 2 nights, so many matches, and SummerSlam as well, a very long show. Hard to rank SummerSlam, as much of a fun card that was. Hard to rank the Royal Rumble because it's Royal Rumble. It's always kind of a good card. So I'm just gonna have to stick with Elimination Chamber 2023.
Yeah, that's a valid choice. I mean, that was a quality card. You named it. I mean, there were some great matches there.
I will say, actually, one quick one, and this is going to be out of the realm. Bound for Glory 2023 just happened pretty recently in October in Chicago. I knew it was going to be a decent card. And I just, for those of you who may not remember, Chris Sabin versus Kenta. For the X Division title. You had PCO, Moose, Rhino, and Steve Macklin in a 4-way Monsters Ball match. You had a tag team match that essentially is the weakest match of the card, but still pretty decent, right? Ace Austin and Chris Bay versus Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz. Then you get to the heart of things. Will Ospreay and Mike Bailey, which I think is up there as one of the matches of the year. Will Ospreay, the top 4 matches, according to Dave Meltzer, were Will Ospreay matches, and the top 5 of 6 matches were Will Ospreay matches, which included this match against Speedball Mike Bailey. You had the Call Your Shot Gauntlet match, which was just like the Impact equivalent of a Royal Rumble, right? Because you had Jordana Grace, which is one of the toughest women in wrestling, period, right? Yeah, she's like the current China in the world of wrestling, up there with the Jade Cargills, right? But this match had Fandango, Eddie Edwards, Eric Young, Frankie Kazarian, Heath Slater, Jonathan Grisham, formerly of his Ring of Honor World Championship fame, right? Matt Cardona, Rich Swann, Bully Ray, Brian Myers, Sonny Kiss, just a fun Juventud Guerrero was in that match as well. And then later on in the card, Trinity versus Mickie James for the Impact Knockouts Championship, and Alex Shelley versus Josh Alexander for the world title. Again, that's similar to what I liked about that card.
Did you mention Juvi Guerrera? I forgot about that.
Yeah. And what I liked about that card, it was 7 matches, but very similar to what WWE did all year, where it was like they didn't have wasted. It wasn't a 4-hour show. It was like 2 hours and 45 minutes. And like I said, it had a match that, Mike Bailey versus Will Ospreay. Sure, I mean, neither of those guys elude Impact Wrestling as their identities in the world of wrestling. It was just 2 amazing wrestlers that would essentially be like AEW would that would be the main card, or like the show stealer in a New Japan show. That'd be the show stealer in an AEW show. We obviously know Will Ospreay signed with AEW. He's one of the best wrestlers. Might even end up being, my pick for wrestler of the year. But I don't want to forget about that. I don't want it to just be WWE on this list. Impact Wrestling really essentially had that event and then ended it with the announcement that they're going to be TNA going forward. I think that was a huge card for Impact Wrestling going forward. A real kickoff, I think, to 2024 for what that company might be this upcoming year. But those are my favorite pay-per-views. Brandon, let's get to yours.
So mine's this one. It's simple. It just happened. The return of CM Punk and Randy Orton, along with some great, very great. I enjoyed those matches in general. They were just I love the Dusty Rhodes concept of the match. Like it was just I love that card. It was a
Survivor
fun,
Series we're talking, yes.
Yeah, Survivor Series. Yeah, I was getting there. Yeah, so Survivor Series. Yeah, to me, like I love the two rings. The spots were good. The matches were good. And to me, you can't. To me, the two craziest things happened. Randy Orton and CM Punk in a same show. They both returned. They both re-debuted, so to speak. There was no way I was keeping that off the card. Like the War Games matches, again, they were fun. Like they just had some great spots, and it was, you saw a part where there was a possible cash in. Like they had all the elements, where Damian Priest thought about it, and then Randy's music hit, and it was. And just when you think, okay, we got Randy Orton, he's back, great, he's been a year and a half. Then you hear the infamous, and you hear that infamous music, Cult of Personality. Oh man, I was so. And the crazy part was the graphic comes up. They were selling it like, all right, we're getting off the air here, and the graphic comes up, and you hear the, that normal like that, and you hear it, and you hear Cult of Personality from Living Color, like that music hit. It was like, oh my God, he's here, and I literally got yelled at my house because I was very loud and it was very late at night. It was just, to me, it was one of the great moments of, because here's the thing. On our show previous to that, I said, no, CM Punk's not coming. So that's how much I thought of the whole thing. I didn't think CM Punk was coming. And he showed up, and guess what? He's here. He's back.
Let me ask you a question then. Let me ask you a question, right? CM Punk doesn't show up at Survivor Series. Where are you ranking Survivor Series in your favorites?
Top 3.
Okay, so the CM Punk thing was a big was a big influence in that. Give me 100%. A pay-per-view. Give me what you would pick for number 1 without CM Punk.
Oh, that's a tough one. Money in the Bank was good. WrestleMania, that was obviously pretty good. If I had to pick one,
I think Backlash. What about that? That's one. Night of Champions. I thought was really good.
Backlash was definitely up there. Yeah, Backlash would. If you put me on the spot and I had to think about it really quick, yeah, Backlash should probably be number 1 for me.
Bad Bunny and Damian Priest. stole that show. The return of Carlito, right? It was Cody and Brock. The tag team title main event.
The whole thing was just hot. That was a hot night. The crowd was hot. It was just, they wanted that. They wanted WWE there so bad, and they got it. They earned it. Like, that was a fun night, and it was cool because it's not one of those monster size arenas. So like, it was tight in there. Like, everything was tight.
It's a big arena. I think it's a big arena. It wasn't a stadium. No, yes.
No, but it was still a tight. The whole setup there was a unique setup for the entranceway and stuff. It was a tight. To me, that looks tight because a lot of times when you have these elaborate arenas where you're putting these elaborate sets up in the arenas, you're taking away from the audience. So like, it was so compact in that aspect.
Intimate,
they packed it in. They packed it in. They packed it to the gills. So Backlash to me, if you're putting me on the spot, minus CM Punk, yeah, I'd put that as number 1. I feel good about that.
All right, favorite feud of the year. You could even say, I don't know if like MJF and Adam Cole, because that's been like a feud slash team up. I mean, that's been a storyline in itself. But your favorite feud, I'll let you start this one. What is your favorite feud of the year?
So for me, Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland. That was that to me. That was it checked the boxes for me when it comes to a build. They took some really personal shots, which I reportedly one of those personal shots that Hangman shot towards Swerve Strickland. Swerve was not made aware of until he said it. So I go back and check that out online. You can check that out. I was reading that actually earlier. I think it was today or the day before. It was in the last couple of days. I read that where it kind of caught him off guard. But like, yeah, you're trying to sell something, so obviously, like, it was a good dig, I'll say. But yeah, they built it up really well, and they sold it as like real life. Like, I hate your guts, and that's. And by the way, not only did they sell it to I Hate Your Guts, they had a match, the Texas Death Match, which to me, like, and like, me, I'm not like, I don't need a ton of blood and guts. Like, I give John Moxley a lot of flack for that because he doesn't need blood in every match to have a good match. But in this case, they sold the hate so well. It was so bloody. It was so gruesome. It was honestly, in some cases, a little disgusting, to be honest with you. There was a little bit of a spot in there where licking blood and stuff like that, like drinking blood, like that stuff was just, that just shows you the amount of animosity between these two, whether it's real, not, how they blur the lines. That's wrestling. That's how it goes. To me, at Full Gear 2023, that was the feud, and that was a hell of a way to go off, and good for Swerve too. Like, I thought Hangman was going to win that match. I think when we recorded, I said Hangman was going to win, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm glad Swerve won. Swerve did a hell of a job. Like, he's legit. He's one of those guys that could be on the list as a champion in AEW very soon.
I'm going to give my two runners up. I think they did a good job with this one. I think they made this one better. With the video packages and the way that they presented it, maybe better than it probably should have been. That's Cody versus Brock. I think they did the WWE-ified that feud to make it a bigger thing than it would have just been on paper, in the sense of redemption and the whole story there. But I think my other runner-up would be Finn Balor, Seth Rollins. They had not just some good matches, but a good build to their matches. I love the whole Finn Balor, harking back to winning the Universal Championship back in the day. And, again, it's been so many years. So it was the return of Finn, like being like, hey, did you forget? A lot of people did. But, it's been, 5 years since he won, or no, not even 7 years, right? 2016 that he won the Universal Championship. And that seems to be so far gone, and Finn Balor has gone in so much different direction. But to re-harken that back, essentially 7 years in the making, this kind of feud, to harken back to when he was hurt and wanted to get back that championship. But I gotta go, and it seems like a clean sweep for me. It was really unintentional here. It's like when you watch the Oscars and the best music and the best sound and the best visuals and the best movie all are the same thing.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go with Sami Zayn, Roman Reigns, that little feud right there, better than Roman and Cody. Just going to the Rumble and Sami turning, the week before the Rumble, right? And all that, is he with us or against us, kind of thing. And then at the Rumble itself, Sami hitting Roman with the chair and just the crowd. And I mean, I just rewatching that, and the crowd when Sami hit him with the chair, and you knew it was kind of coming. It was a very slow build at the end of the Rumble, but when he did it, it was just like
and the crowd
jaw dropping.
Yeah,
and then obviously Sami into his hometown, facing Roman in what was one again of the hotter crowds of the year. Sami's hometown,
yes. Electric crowd. You were there. You felt the electricity in there.
Definitely. I mean, just the feeling of that, but just all of that build up, right? That whole, I think it goes back to Sami hitting Roman with the chair at the Rumble. Just that, like, and that was, I guess it's difficult because a lot of that feud happened, I guess, in 2022, where it started, with War Games and stuff like that. But the feud essentially took place over a month span from the Rumble to the match when Sammy officially broke off. And I guess, you can even say Sammy versus the Bloodline, as, if you want to just more encompass it, leading to WrestleMania with Kevin and Sammy main eventing night one of WrestleMania and leaving there with the tag team belts. And then the rematch at Backlash. So, I mean, Sammy versus the Bloodline. I'm going to reset this. Sammy versus the Bloodline. That's my feud of the year if I had to pick. And that gives it a little more weight to it than just the one match building up. But Sammy versus the Bloodline. That's what I'm going to say is my feud of the year. As we move on to male wrestler of the year. This is a tough one. But who are you going to give your male wrestler to?
To me, it's an obvious one. It's Seth freaking Rollins. I mean, Seth Rollins has done everything in this business this year. Like, anybody he's faced, it could be Shinsuke, everything that's coming up here with CM Punk, like Finn Balor, as you mentioned. Every match that he has is a match you want to watch. Every time he gets on the microphone, you want to watch. I find myself sometimes, for me, sometimes I want to go to bed. And I'm catching, and it's like I'm ready to go to bed, and then Seth Rollins is like Seth Rollins will be on the microphone next, they'll put it I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna suck it up, stay up a little bit longer because I want to see what he's saying because he's so captivating, whether he's on the microphone or in the squared circle in a match. Like he checks every single box, and WWE might want to make sure they check the box for a very big check coming up because Seth Rollins' contract we talked about, I believe last week, is coming up. So Seth Rollins, to me, he is, as much as Roman Reigns is, the guy, quote unquote, Seth Rollins is the guy who's always there. He's always there for his fans. He's putting on great show after great show. He's on the road, seemingly 24/7. He doesn't miss a night. He wants to put his title on the line. Like it feels like every single week. And guess what? Doesn't matter who he faces. It's a great performance every single time. He's as consistent as the day is long. I don't care what anybody says. Seth Rollins, to me, is WWE right now.
I got some tough, because it's just these are all very tough. It was such a good year in professional wrestling. Yeah. My woman's one's a little more solid, but with the men, I want to give, I guess, some shout out to Cody Rhodes, because I felt like he really carried WWE this year. He was like, at any of the shows you attended, he was always the one that was coming up after the show was over. He's wrestling in dark matches on SmackDown. Roman Reigns' 1000th episode of SmackDown didn't need Cody Rhodes, but Cody Rhodes was there. He was still there, right? He still shows up at a dark match after the show goes off the air. So he's on shows he's not even a part of, not to be on the show, but just to be there for the crowd. So if you were just a house show aficionado for 2023, wherever you were, Cody Rhodes was a part of it. SmackDown, Raw. He was that guy, that old reliable, very similar to Seth Rollins. He didn't hold a title, but it felt like he didn't need to hold the title. He was just there. He was getting that pop and getting people excited to be the man that was on every show. But I also have to give a shout out to MJF. Essentially, we talk about AEW having a downish year, I guess, in comparison of WWE. But MJF, he stayed solid, and he essentially held that company through the year, through their big show in London, and in fact, just like Cody Rhodes, he did a lot of work. How many times was he on the pre-show with the tag titles and then in the main event of the same pay-per-view, right? So MJF really held things down. But my pick, I got to give my pick, it's Gunther. It's Gunther. That guy had a year. He made the IC title one of the world championships. You know what I mean? Like, that guy had a year. And I promise you, I feel like, he's legit, and he's
just scratching the surface, dude. He's just scratching the surface.
We've had a women's now thanks to 2020, 2019, we've had a woman match main event WrestleMania, the first ever. I think we could have an IC championship match main event, like a night of WrestleMania for sure.
And nobody's going to complain.
As champion.
Nobody will complain about it.
Gunther versus Drew McIntyre for the IC belt in the main event of one night WrestleMania, or Gunther versus Brock, right? I don't see how
nobody's complaining in that one. No, that's Gunther's a great choice. I mean, again, these are our favorites, so like there are so many that we're leaving off that we all really love. Like we mentioned MJF, like of course, like I mentioned earlier in the show, it's like MJF is the guy. If he goes to Impact, I'll start watching Impact. So nothing against MJF. I just had to go with Seth Rollins. I feel like just right now, WWE's hotter than AEW, and Seth Rollins, I feel like, is the main reason for that. So I think, and he's just held down the fort no matter what. So it's one of those open things where we're there's no wrong answer here. It's just a personal preference. So it's good to hear different perspectives on it. Now I think this one coming up, and I'm gonna lead off on this one. Favorite female wrestler. It's Rhea Ripley.
That's my pick. Yeah, my pick's Rhea Ripley as well. Yeah.
I mean, there's no other choice. Like, mommy is always on top. Literally. She's on top of the business. Like, the only one that I could come up with, as somebody that, made a late run with her new gimmick or gimmick recently is Toni Storm in AEW. Toni Storm's doing some good things. She's got a great, that gimmick's very over, like that old school black and white, that old school look.
The timeless Toni Storm, yeah.
Yeah, timeless Toni. I mean, it works, and I think this is the best. This is the best I've ever seen Toni Storm, and I'm glad she's getting a chance to really show off her her character. She's really good, and I'm looking forward to 2024 because Toni Storm could be that name in 2024 when we're doing this show a year from now.
I could agree, though, Rhea Ripley. I mean, there's been no woman's competitor. I mean, especially, too, attending a lot of WWE shows in 2023. Every girl has been kind of like dressed as Rhea Ripley, the makeup, the shirt. She's what a lot of people, they talk about, bringing in the female audience, which obviously the 90s was such a male dominated audience for WWE. Yeah. And the female audience that I know when I go to a WWE show, they want to see Rhea Ripley. That's who they want to see. And the problem with, the other side of things, with the Becky Lynches and the Biancas, is they've just been a little like inconsistent, and they're great and they're there but Rhea Ripley has been consistently all year, I think. No time off really, you know what I mean? No weird storylines where she's been in the one faction. She's been consistent with her character all year round. Her character's only gotten stronger, right? She's been in the Judgment Day, but it's only been like with Dominic and all that, just been more and more consistent as years been coming on.
She's the leader of Judgment Day. I don't care what anybody says. She runs the show. I think everybody understands that. I do want to jump in again on this one because this one I am combining because this individual broke out this year in 2023, but will also break out even more in 2024 as next year's breakout star. And he, and I'm just going to say this. Let me talk to you. It's LA Knight, baby. He's doing everything.
He had a great year for sure, and it's very difficult not to pick him, right? Because I feel like he didn't really break out as much as – because when the year started, I feel like people were behind him and were more or less like, why isn't he getting this push?
Look where he's been. Like, he was at one point – he was about to get the boot. Like, I still remember him as, what was it? Dupree,
Dupree, yeah.
Yeah, like he had like they were gonna put him as a manager, and then and obviously things happened, and he just started working his way up. He started having quality match after quality match. The crowd pops were getting more and more and more, and now he gets main event level pops. He broke out this year. 110%. But here's the thing. The sky is still the limit for him. He hasn't even scratched the surface yet. And that's the crazy thing. I think this year was a breakout year for him because of what he's done. And he hasn't won a title match yet. He wins a title match in 2024. I am predicting that right now. He is going to be a champion in some way, shape, or form when we're talking next year on this podcast.
My breakout star, it's gonna be a little unorthodox here. It's somebody whom, like with LA Knight, obviously I was told that you got to watch this guy. Like, I mean, the crowd obviously made him who he is, but at the same time, he was also somebody whom you were like expecting when he wasn't in a main event match. You were like, why isn't he, right? Like, because he's supposed to be, right? You're supposed to be giving him this push, so the fans got behind him. But one person who kind of broke out that when 2023 started, didn't know much about, right? And caught my attention. Caught if we were in the COVID world without fans, without any sort of pomp and circumstance, this person would still have caught my attention, even in a silent wrestling ring. And this is Tiffany Stratton. I'm thinking her. I mean, she took the women's world in the NXT. She's still down in NXT, but her brief call-ups, her match with Becky Lynch, her other matches in the women's world, I think she is going to be a big star, and I think she broke out this year to show me in this NXT world that I don't pay attention to like I used to, where all the women kind of blend together, and I watch a lot of NXT pay-per-views, and there's some women on there where I go, I've heard of her, but I think it's been a name on a piece of paper.
So Mrs. Ludwig Kaiser, because I know they're not married yet, but I know they are in a relationship, and I saw a recent article where I mean, you could tell that Ludwig has been working with her, and she's credited him. I did see that somewhere, and Ludwig is obviously very, very pleased with her work, obviously. But yeah, I was surprised when I found out they were actually an item. I didn't know that. Like, that was one of those things where when it popped up, I was like, okay, this sounds like really ridiculous, and you see those pop-ups online and stuff. But no, at least to my knowledge, as of recording, I think they are an item. So maybe the future Mrs. Ludwig Kaiser. And here's the thing, I like that. That's out of the box with Tiffany Stratton, but I see star potential with her. I mean, she's been a star in NXT, but let's see how she does when she gets her call up eventually. I think she does great. I think she's going to do a lot of wonderful things for the business. She does have the total package. I think she's still working on her skills. I think she's gotten a lot better, but I think sooner rather than later, she is going to be a main roster star for WWE, no doubt.
So I imagine it's going to be a WWE pick for you, but let me ask you, who do you think is going to be the LA Knight? So that's the best way to put this. The LA Knight of 2020-24.
Ooh, that is a good one. You know what? I don't think it's just one. I think it's a tag team. And I'm going out of the box on this one. They had a hell of a match this past week on Monday Night Raw. The Creed brothers. Oh my God, those guys are freaking awesome. I watched them, and I watched them in Diamond Mine, the last couple years. But just watching Brutus and Julius, like, they are phenomenal. Like, to me, they looked better in the match than Finn Balor and Damian Priest. And I'm not saying anything wrong with Finn Balor and Damian Priest, because I have a lot of respect for those guys. They do a hell of a job. But they, to me, put on a show. They looked great in defeat. They are future champions. So that, to me, is the breakout stars. They are starting to get a lot of love. I've been watching. They're getting the crowd's starting to get behind them a little bit, and I do feel like they are going to be a long-term thing in WWE as a great unit, as a tag team, and the sky is the limit for the Creed brothers. They're phenomenal athletes. The one thing I do want to see them before they can really break out and become that level of a character as like an LA Knight is I want to see them on the mic. That's the one thing I haven't seen from them really yet. So that's where I'm looking. I'm looking to see them. Let's see how they do on the mic, but in ring, bar none. They are fantastic. They're ready to go. And you put them on one of the final shows of the year as their main event on Raw. That's a pretty good way to finish off your 2023 as you go into 2024.
I picked Tiffany Stratton as my breakout star of the year, but I want to put another person on that list. Now that we're talking about tag teams, right? And it brought to mind somebody who I originally wrote down earlier, and then I don't have that paper in front of me, but now you've rekindled my memory. And it's somebody who's had a really and this isn't just about people who are it's about what you've done. You've done something. It doesn't matter if you've been in the business for 50 years. If you've done something this year that set you apart from all those other years, I'm going to say Jey Uso. Jey Uso had a breakout year. I mean, I don't think you could have told him that he was going to be main eventing a singles match for the World Championship at SummerSlam 1 year prior. Right? I mean, he did a lot of great things with the Usos, and the Usos were a big-time tag team for many years in WWE, including the early part of this year, right? But just looking at Jey Uso on the whole, both in the tag team and out, right? So the Usos tag team main events WrestleMania, which is amazing by itself, right? Even as great as the Usos have ever been, to go off the show at Mania is huge. But then on top of that, for Jey Uso to main event a SummerSlam by himself and then break away from Jimmy entirely, and now he's in the War Games match as a singles competitor with Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins.
Dude,
I mean, that's pretty big.
There's just one word I could say about Mr. Jey Uso.
Can you say
I'll just leave it at this: Yeet.
Can you say it? I was going to say you should blur that out there.
No, the shirts are back. They acknowledged it. It's Yeet is back. He even acknowledged it on I think it was last week.
They do sell the blurred shirt though, just to play fun on the controversy. There's a WWE shop is selling a shirt with the word blurred out.
I like that. I mean, hey, capitalize on it. I hope Jay makes a ton of money off of it. But yeet, baby.
All right. That goes back to my the start of this when I said there's a lot of things about the modern day and the future that I absolutely hate, and that is one of them. The word just
and I do it on purpose because I know how you are. I kept saying it because I could see your face.
I hate anything that's trendy and young and hip because I'm none of those things.
You're an old guy. It happens.
So we'll end this, right? So this isn't necessarily our favorites, but our Nostradamus predictions, right? We were just predicting who we think are going to be the breakout stars of the future, right? So my question to you to end this, right? Next year, December 31st, 2024, who will be holding the AEW, WWE, and World WWE Championships on that day?
And I'm not going to go into a crazy analysis because if you've watched them, you know how good they are. We're going to keep it straightforward and simple. I'm going to go down my list here. So AEW Men's World Champion, Will Ospreay. Don't have to say anything else. That's an obvious answer.
That's my pick right there. That's an easy pick.
Women's World Champion AEW.
Oh, you go women's. Okay.
I'm going to go women's too. Toni Storm. I can't leave the women out here. I think Toni Storm. And so we have to separate this. So we have WWE Universal Champion and then WWE the heavyweight champion. Like they have the whole split there. So the Universal Champion Roman Reigns that's the choice. I think Roman Reigns is going to he's going to surpass Hulk Hogan. I do think he does not lose his title until 2025, contrary to reports out there. So I'm putting Roman Reigns 2024. He's gonna run through things. The WWE champion. I'm gonna save the men's championship for the last, just for a second.
Okay, so that's Seth Rollins' current belt. Yes.
Yeah, SmackDown, Rhea Ripley, women's champion. Raw women's champion. Here's a good one for you. Bayley. I think her and Damage Control are gonna be done. I think that's an obvious thing. Sorry, I'm getting a little choked up there for a second. Get a little tickle in my throat. So Bayley gets out of she's going to be thrown out of Damage Control. They're going to build something there because obviously EO is a champion right now. I think something happens where down the line that Bayley becomes champion. So I feel like she ends the year in 2024 as champ. And then the WWE champion, Seth Rollins, is the champion right now, but I think Mr. CM Punk will be the champion at year's end in 2024. How about you on that one? You like that? What do we got?
All right, so AW, I agree with you. I'm taking Will Ospreay as well. I think he's going to be a champion sometime in the year, and I imagine, he'll hold the belts for quite a period of time in AEW. The women's picks are a little bit difficult, obviously, too, because, the women's roster, changes SmackDown to Raw. I know they all do, but I feel like it does it a little bit more in that sense. I'd probably say Tiffany Stratton, right, holds a strap on one of the women's, sides, throughout the year. But with the WWE, the main belts, I am going to go. Obviously, Seth Rollins' belt's the difficult one to pick. I feel like that has the option to have a bunch of different names, especially too because as of right now, it's a Raw specific belt, which has a lot of names. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go the Roman Reigns' belt. It's going to be Cody. He's going to hold it. Roman Reigns' belt's going to be held by Cody. And as for Seth Rollins' current belt, the World Heavyweight Championship, going Gunther. I'm going to say he's going to be your World Heavyweight Champion come year's end.
I can't argue with that. I think that's a great name. I feel like both our lists are very good, and You know what? We'll save the tape here, so to speak. We'll save the recording, and
My question to you actually is,
yeah.
before we go off, because the next time we record will be 2024. So by the next time we record, will Seth Rollins or Drew McIntyre be the World Heavyweight Champion as they face off on day one at Raw?
I'm going to say Drew McIntyre finally gets it done. I think Drew McIntyre takes championship. There's my answer.